Today for a nature story, we're going to talk about one of the animals that I really like. Now, Seth thinks that this animal, or did think this animal, was a figment of my imagination because he knew about the animal, but he had never seen it in the wild. But
right, because they don't ever hide in the wild.
but we found them in the wild, didn't we?
No, we found just one.
Well, we found one in the wild. But you know, here on these pictures, you see a lot of other ones that I have taken pictures of in the wild, because all of these pictures are pictures I took, which is why they're not that great. But you can see that I've seen many different turtles in the wild. Well, sea turtles are different from land turtles because
I think land turtles are called tortoises.
they are. But what's different, well, there's many differences actually, but one of the things that's different is land turtles often don't travel very far. They just kind of stay in the same spot. But sea turtles can go thousands of miles. And do you know why they travel so far? Oh, I don't know why they leave, but I will tell you why they come back. They want to lay their eggs on the same beach where they were born. So whatever beach they were born on, they all come back to that beach to lay their eggs. And what's really amazing is they go all over the place. And somehow, no matter where they go, they can always find their way right back to the beach where they were born to lay their eggs. And nobody really knows how they know that's the right beach, but they always find their way back and they lay their eggs right on the beach where they were born. And today's story, we are going to talk about God always helps people find Him when they search. And like He helps the sea turtles, or built something into the sea turtles to help them find their beach, in the same way, in our story, He helped some wise men that were looking for Him to find Him. And they took months and months and months. But He showed them a star, and He led them all the way to baby Jesus. There were once 3 wise men in the East. And these 3 wise men liked to study the stars. In fact, one of them even had stars on his robe because he loved to study the stars so much. Now, the 3 wise men were out one night looking at the stars when they saw something they had not ever seen before. There was a star in the sky that was different from any other star. It was bigger and brighter. And they said, "That's the star we have been waiting for." Because you see, these wise men had been studying. I don't know exactly what they studied. I wonder if Daniel hadn't left some notes about things. But they knew in the Bible it did say that a star would rise out of Jacob. And they knew that the star meant a great king had come. And they wanted to find out more about this great king. Men decided to pack up a chest full of gold to take to the king. And a teddy bear, because he thought, well, the king might want my favorite teddy bear. And so he took the chest of gold. And he took his elephant, and he closed the chest. Teddy bear stuck in the chest.
You put it now, you close it. Then he rides on his chest?
Then he rides on the head of the elephant. That's where Mahoots rides.
All right. Yeah. Put him on the head of the elephant.
Yeah. And he rode on his elephant. The next wise man, he said, okay, well, you got the gold. And so he got his pot of frankincense and sat down on his camel and started riding off towards the star. And the third one got a big, huge silver pot of myrrh. He got into his camel.
No, he had a horse.
I mean his horse. What, he's leaving the pot on the side?
No, it's part of his horse's cargo.
Oh, okay. The horse has it attached, doesn't it? I didn't see that. Okay, so off they rode. And every night they decide where to go based on the star. And you know what that star was? That star was the angels that had come to see Jesus. And it was guiding them towards Jesus. And they had a way to get to the most important person ever born. Eventually, the wise men followed the star all the way to the western town of Jerusalem, because remember, they were going west. And they got to the western town, and everybody came up to them and said, "Howdy, howdy, howdy." And they were like, these guys are a little weird. But they said, "Well, where is your king?" And so the people said, "Oh, yeah, you can find him over there." And so they all got off of their mounts and tied their mounts up next to the saloon and said, "Hey." And the wise men found the king, King Herod, that is. The wise men were looking for the Messiah, and they thought maybe they'd find the Messiah in King Herod's palace, because after all, King Herod was a king, and the Messiah was a king. And so they went to King Herod and said, "Oh, great King Herod, where is this Messiah that the star is in the sky for? Because we have come many, many months looking and trying to find the great, the wonderful, the magnificent Messiah, the most important person ever born." And King Herod said to himself in his mind, because he didn't want to give it up, "What? Nobody's more important than me. What are these guys talking about?" But he pretended he was being nice, and he said, "Okay, guys, tell me all about your search." And they told him about how they had seen the star, and they'd left, and they'd followed it, and they had gotten to this western town of Jerusalem. And King Herod said, "Well, let me talk to the priests." King Herod talked to the chief priest, then said, "Oh, chief priest, what is this thing about the Messiah being born? Where is the Messiah supposed to be born, and why don't I know about it?" And the chief priest said, "Well, you know, the scriptures say Messiah is going to be born in Bethlehem, but, you know, it may just be a joke or something. We don't really know. We thought maybe it was just one of those things like a fairy story." And King Herod's like, "Well, these really rich guys from the east came and said that he might be born right here. And how did you guys not know?" And they did. And the priests were like, "Well, we know about it, but like I said, we think it's just a fairy story." And King Herod was like, And he called the wise men, and King Herod lied to them and said, "I want to worship this baby, so please find them and tell me where he is so that I can go and worship him." And the wise men said, "Okay," but they thought it was a little strange that King Herod didn't know anything about him, and then he wanted to worship him. So they went and got on their mounts. And when those wise men left Jerusalem, they were super happy to see that the star was in the sky. And they said, "Well, the king doesn't know where to go, but that star knows where to go." And they followed it all the way to a little house in Bethlehem. And at the house, they found Mary and Joseph and little baby Jesus. And they said, "We've found them! We've found them!" And the wise men got down and they told Mary and Joseph their story. Men gave their gifts to Mary and Joseph and the baby. And, of course, the baby didn't care much about gold, but he was so happy to get a teddy bear. And he said, Mama! And Mary said, that's not your mama. And he's like, bear! And they gave him the other gifts of frankincense and of myrrh. And Mary and Joseph were really amazed because they were very poor and they'd never seen all that much stuff. They were like, wow. And they said, how did you ever know to find us here? We haven't told anyone that Jesus is the Son of God. And the wise men said, well, God's star showed us where he was. And they were like, wow, that's really cool. And the wise men did plan to go home through Jerusalem, but that night, as everyone was sleeping, they had a dream, and God told them, not a good idea to go back to Herod. Herod is a bad guy. You guys better go back a different way. And that's exactly what they did. They snuck back to the east. King Herod waited and waited for the wise men for quite a while, and then he realized that they had gone off. And he called his rocket chair to him, and he said, rocket chair, go kill off all the babies in Bethlehem, because those babies might be other kings, and I don't want any of that. And the rocket chair said, yes, Master Herod, and flew off to kill the babies.
Pew, 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 pew.
And that's exactly how the story went. Okay, for those of you who want a more honest story, there was no rocket chair.
Wait, there was a rocket chair.
But Herod did send his soldiers to Bethlehem to kill all the babies. That night, while Joseph and Mary lay sleeping with baby Jesus between them because they loved him so much, an angel came to Joseph and said, Joseph, Joseph, get up, get out of here, go to Egypt, because you guys are in great danger. And the next thing, he saw Joseph and Mary carrying the treasure box and baby Jesus and the cup of myrrh. And you said, Pew! What's that smell of burning rubber? Because they were running so fast to get out of Bethlehem and on their way to Egypt. And you know something? It was a good thing, because that rocket chair was coming into Bethlehem, and those soldiers were coming into Bethlehem, and they killed off all the babies in Bethlehem, which was really, really mean of them. But Jesus and his family made it safely to Egypt because God led them to the right place at the right time. So when the amazing rocket chair and the funky-looking purple soldier got to Mary and Joseph's house, they found it empty, and all they could smell was
burnt rubber.
The end. So, children, in today's lesson, we learned about the wise men and how they followed the star to find Jesus. And you know, when we search for Jesus, we can find the star too.
Ooh.
So our memory verse today is, you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. And I hope that each of you continue to seek Jesus, because you will find him as you search for him. Thank you, boys and girls. We didn't need a rocket in this scene. Can you please take it out?
Wait, which thing did you need a rocket in?
None.
Ah, well, keep it.
It can go in the bloopers.
No, it can't.
Yeah, it can.
Go put it in the bloopers. It needs to be in the story since everyone knows garbage.
No, it will go in the bloopers. Now, can I record this story? So,
only a person in the rocket chair is in it.